Take a step on the road to fun. Take a step on the road into nature. Take a step on the road into the past. Take a step on the road to sharing powerful stories. Take a step on the road to experiencing big ideas. Take a step with Humanities on the Road as speakers from the Pennsylvania Humanities Council take you on a journey through history, literature, the arts, and the world around you. Learn more about Humanities on the Road and discover why the humanities are important to you at humanitiesontheroad.org. Welcome to Humanities on the Road. Today we are with the Huntington County Arts Council in its brand new facility in historic downtown Huntington. The art space on 4th Street is located near cultural institutions like the County Library and Historical Society. Hello everyone, I'm Tracy Matisak. Humanities on the Road is a wonderful opportunity for audiences all over Pennsylvania to explore history and art and the ideas that shape our world. Join us today as we ask why Joseph W. Yoder wrote the 1940 Rosanna of the Amish, which he said was a true memoir of his mother's life. Our speaker today, Julia Spiker-Kasdorf, is going to ask what we can learn about fact and fiction in memoir from Yoder's popular portrayal of Amish life. And you know, Julia brings a unique perspective to this particular topic. Similar to Yoder, she grew up in a Mennonite family and maintains ties with that community. Today, she lives the life of a poet, scholar, and educator at Penn State University. She has published award-winning collections of her poetry and essays on her life, and her literary studies have focused on Yoder with a book called Fixing Tradition, Joseph W. Yoder, Amish American. Most recently, she co-edited the restored transcript and text of that 1940 memoir that she's going to be talking about today. So please join me as we welcome Julia Spiker-Kasdorf for Rosanna of the Amish. Here she is.
Thank you. I'd like to begin my presentation today by reading one of my own poems. This is called A Family History. At dusk, the girl who will become my mom must trudge through the snow, her legs cold under skirts, a bandana tight on her braids. In the hen house, a clook pecks her chapped hand as she pulls a warm egg from under its breast. This girl will always hate hens, and she already knows she won't marry a farmer. In a dim barn, my father, a boy, forks hay under the Holstein's steaming noses. They sway on their hooves and swat dangerous tails. But he is thinking of snow, how it blows across the gray pond, scribbled with skate tracks, of the small blaze on its shore, and the boys in black coats who skate hand in hand, round and round, building up speed until the leader cracks that whip of mittens and arms and it jerks around fast, flinging off the last boy. He'd be that one, flung like a spark, trailing only his scarf. I remember writing the first draft of that poem some years ago while riding to my parents' house in western Pennsylvania on Amtrak, just before the Christmas holidays. As the train passed through the Juniata River Valley in central Pennsylvania, someplace just east of Huntington here, the snowy cornfields reminded me of Mifflin County, the place my parents had grown up in Amish and Mennonite families. Just a little north, I thought, just over those mountains. And I imagined them there as children, The final image, the boy flying off the end of a row of ice skaters, hints at my father's leaving his Amish home to join a Mennonite church and then pursue higher education, trailing only his scarf. There's emotional truth in the scene, maybe. I remember my mother once saying that she hated gathering eggs, and she knew she didn't want to marry a farmer. But the poem is mostly made out of my imagination. When Sleeping Preacher, my first book, appeared, this poem was one of the less controversial ones. Others that told family stories as I remembered or interpreted them, but that were inaccurate to the facts of history, dismayed family members who knew better. And so I learned quite suddenly what it is to be an author, even if what you're writing is only poetry. That experience led me to think about Joseph W. Yoder, who also wrote a book about his memories in Big Valley, in Mifflin County. I believed that he had a good relationship with that community, and I was really curious about how he negotiated that. As it turned out, a look at his personal correspondence, which is collected here in this town in an archive up at Juniata College, soon showed me that during his lifetime, Yoder's relationship with the Big Valley Amish and Mennonite communities was very conflicted. So he couldn't help me solve my problem. But in the meantime, I had become so fascinated with his life story that I chose to write my doctoral dissertation about him, and that project eventually became a biography. I'd like to tell you a bit about Yoder's life today, using objects and some old photographs from the Historical Society here in Huntington. After his death, Yoder's widow gave his papers to the college archive and gave photographs and some other objects to the Historical Society, which is less than a block from here on this street. And then I want to look a bit more closely at this matter of fact and fiction in Yoder's book, Rosanna of the Amish. Joseph Yoder was born in the house in 1872. He was the fourth and last son of his Amish parents, Rosanna McGonigal Yoder and Christian Yoder. And that house is located just down the hill from the center of town in Belleville, Pennsylvania. Just to clarify, the terms Amish and Mennonite refer to Christian church groups descended from the Anabaptist movement, which was part of the Protestant Reformation. Amish and Mennonite immigrants from Switzerland, Germany, and Alsace were among the German speakers who settled in Pennsylvania during the colonial period. Today, the groups are known for their strong communities and their commitment to nonviolence. Generally speaking, Amish groups are more reluctant to use technology and take part in higher education and broader society than Mennonite groups. As far as we know, Rosanna, Joseph Yoder's mother, was the youngest child of Irish immigrants. She was born in Half Moon Valley near Stormstown in Center County, and that's not far from State College. And that was probably in the 1830s. Rosanna was orphaned there shortly after birth and raised by an Amish family. This sampler, which is here, housed here in the collection at Huntington, was made by the Amish woman who adopted Rosanna. Her name was Elizabeth Yoder. She's called Momley in the book, Rosanna of the Amish, and Elizabeth's name is here across the top with the year 1829. And then we have the alphabet and a variety of patterns. Samplers were typically made by young girls in the 19th century to practice their embroidery. So this wouldn't have been made for display or as a final project, but it was really just a way to practice her letters and so that she would have a pattern when she worked on other projects like this towel, which is also from the collection. And here you see there are just these initials and then the year 1848. Rosanna grew up in Belleville, which is in the Kishokoquillis, or Big Valley, Mifflin County, and then married Christian Yoder. And Christian's family had lived in the area, had lived in Belleville for a long time. You'll see a photograph of Christian there. That picture was taken many years after Christian married Rosanna by his youngest son, Joseph Yoder. And as he tells the story, Joseph asked his father if he could take a picture of the kitten. His father said, oh, he thought that would be okay. Although it wouldn't have been okay to take a picture of an Amish person, of course. And Yoder concluded that if he photographed the cat and his father happened to be in the picture, no harm done. That was the typical way that Joseph Yoder reasoned. Growing up, he chose to leave the farm and pursue an education, and his first steps in that direction took him here to Huntington, where he enrolled in the Brethren Normal School, which is now called Juniata College. In the next picture, you can see Yoder in the back row, and in the second row was Yoder's college roommate, John Hooley. Yoder met Hooley in Big Valley when Hooley taught a singing school where Yoder first learned to read music around the age of 16, and according to his memoir, where he first heard singing in harmony, which he thought sounded like the songs of angels. The Amish, and even Amish Mennonites at that time, forbade the singing of harmony in church as a worldly innovation. So it was very transgressive for Yoder to go to this singing school where he met Hooley and really sort of started off in his life's work, which was largely musical rather than literary. And Hooley remained a lifelong friend of Yoder. Yoder received his normal diploma in English here at Juniata in 1895, and that prepared him to teach first in Milroy and then in Belleville in country schools. In 1897, he was called to teach English and music at the new college being created by progressive Mennonites in Indiana, Elkhart Institute, and that later became Goshen College. In order to continue teaching at Elkhart, Yoder felt he needed more education, so he enrolled in Northwestern University and studied there for 2 years. And the portrait you have is was probably taken at that time when Yoder was at Northwestern. While he was studying at Northwestern, Yoder boarded at the YMCA, and forever after, he was a lifelong member. The triangle symbol of the YMCA represents a strong mind, a strong body, and a strong spirit. And that became Yoder's motto for life. He embraced the movement and the ideology, and you see the picture of him after 2 years at Northwestern. He returned to Elkhart to teach English, Greek, and light gymnastics. And he introduced the idea of physical culture, which was an early 20th century term for bodybuilding, to the young Mennonite farm boys who came to the Elkhart Institute. He found a barn and outfitted it as a gymnasium, and he coached these Mennonite boys there in those white gym suits. In 1901, he was hired at Juniata to finish his bachelor's degree and serve as their first paid athletic director. Like other colleges and communities at that time, Juniata had embraced the strong mind, strong body ethic that was sweeping the nation. And a map of the campus from those years shows that the athletic field is almost as big as the campus. In the photograph of the football team, which comes from the collection here in Huntington, you see Coach Yoder in the back. The year 1902 is chalked on the sole of one of the players' shoes. That year, the college trustees banned football, considering it too violent and dangerous for intramural play, especially at a college that was connected with the historic Peace Church. But that year also saw the construction of Juniata's first freestanding gymnasium. In the next picture, you can see Yoder with the tennis team. In those days, women often played tennis, which had just come recently from England. It was a new sport in America. In long